So normally, during your debugging session, once you identify the problem or found certain things, there's no need to continue this execution, especially after such a horrific exception being thrown. You just go back to debug and say stop debugging. So this naturally exits the program execution, and we can proceed forward with whatever the next steps are. So I'm just going to bring back our if statements as they were placed originally. And my next focus is going to be on the fact that if you look at the code that our program has, it keeps getting longer and longer, and we still have only a single source file in our application. So what I'd like to do, I realize that the logic of these functions, function declarations, and even this statement could potentially be placed in a separate source file, so that main function or main source file should contain the main function, and everything else perhaps should be moved out to a separate source file. Of course, it's a good idea because this is an idea of modularization, right? We want to maintain smaller, well-defined modules that contain things designated for the game rules, designated for user input, printing reports, and other things in the system that we may want to have. So with this in mind, why don't we just go back to our project directory, and here under source, this is our main file, right? So this is the project directory. So I'll make it visible for you, and I'll just go back to View, Solution Explorer. I can do it this way, and I can go back to source and say that I would like to add another new item, just like we did with main.cpp at the beginning, and specify that this will be another source file, cpp source file. And my wizard screen here already remembers that the original file was placed under source, so it keeps the source subfolder, which is okay. And I'm going to say ping pong, right? pingpong.cpp underscore. Okay, so I'm just going to say add, and it opens this brand new empty file that's named ping-pong. You can see that it was created side by side with the main source file. And notice that, of course, because this is going to be new source file, of course it has to be on the list of source files. So all the CPP files that we create that contain all of the functions, we need to have them included in the source file. So let's just maximize this view and move it to the new vertical document group, right? So if you right click on the tab, a new vertical tab group, so it's easier to program it this way. So we have like a side-by-side view. I'm going to close the Solution Explorer, and let's just copy and paste, or rather actually cut, right? Control X, right? Or just right click and cut from the main source file and paste this in this separate source file, because we say, okay, this these two functions really belong to the business rules of our game, and let's have a separate module for it. Okay, so with this in mind, I am suspecting that first of all, my first observation is we only using string in the ping-pong file. So I would assume that it would be safe to move this include string out of main and place it right here. Additionally, I am pretty sure that other things must be changed, but let's first build this and see how things things look like. If we attempt to just save all the files, you can just save this using this toolbar button. And let's build this. Okay, so we're getting some errors. For instance, the times to play prompt is not known. Well, we just happen to move it into a separate source file. So what is happening here? These two source files are being placed on a source list of modules or source files that have to be built in order to create our program. So this is our main.cpp, okay, right, like this, and this is our pingpong.cpp. So we have two of these files, and the idea of the C and C++ compiler is that each source file is processed by the compiler, okay, by our C++ compiler right here. That's who gets involved. And the result is that it generates a file named object file, OBJ, object file, which contains compiled version of this source file. Likewise, pingpong is also processed the same way by the compiler in the next step, and it generates another object file. And so if we have more source files added to our program, so we have more and more and more source files placed on the list of our source files, there will be more and more and more object files generated by the compiler. And then the second stage of building our executable image will be the linking. So the linker will take all of these object files and attempt to create a single executable file which contains everything, and everything is now properly put together or linked. Okay, so now this program could run if everything is okay. But the rule of C++ compiler is that every module, every source file that we take as a source file in our project is processed individually, and the order in which these source files are compiled is up to the building environment, and it's not under our control. So the rules again are a little bit simplified. So this means the following. It means that everything that we declare, that like this, that we create this constant string times to play equals this, needs to be declared in every module uniformly. So only then things can be compiled properly. Okay, so what we need to do is the following. We need to go back to our source files, and I typically do this in the file manager view. You can just right click and make sure that you display file name extensions. That's very important, because if you don't do it, you will not be able to rename the file. So I'm going to first say new text document, just plain text, okay, like this, and say that this will be pingpong .h. I'm going to replace .text with .h, which stands for the header file. So you sure you want to change it? Yes. Okay, so just change the extension of the file properly, and we'll create this header file. And so quickly, I'll just drag and drop it somewhere here. And I know that and let's move this to a new vertical document tab group so we can see all three of the files at the same time. And in this header file, I'm going to take these three items, times to play, and function declarations or function prototypes, and again press cut and paste into the header file. So now the file pingpong.cpp will include a file named pingpong.h, the header file. So instead of writing these things directly in the brand new implementation file, we created a separate file with all of the declarations, and also constant variables behave very well inside the header files. And instead of doing it in this file, we simply include it. So basically, the behavior of the include is that this line, each include line, is deleted. Instead, the content of this file right here is inserted in place of the include. So it's pretty simple, right? So we just extract the content and include it. Now I also observe that because we're using string over here, it probably makes sense to change this and move this include string over here as well, so that we include the string definition from the standard library, and we include it in our header file. So now we definitely have sufficient include power to be able to declare objects of this type. Now, after this, I also would like to take this include and place it also over here. Okay. I also notice that implementation of ping-pong right here uses character output. So therefore, it needs IOStream. So I'm just going to move again this IOStream out of here, and likely just to also include it in the header file. And now both of our implementation files, main.cpp and pingpong.cpp, include the brand new header file. So function declarations will appear in both of these files. So when the compiler goes ahead and it will be compiling two of these files, because they're currently if you go to View, Solution Explorer, and see what's on the source list, it's these two files, .cpp files. So they both will be processed by the compiler, like this, right? So this is our compiler, C++, right here, and it will generate the output for both. There will be two object files as a result of this build, and the linker, right? And the linker will then use these two object files and generate the final version, the executable file. Okay, so this is what I'm expecting this program to be built like this, and let's verify if everything works correctly.